Okay, I want you to picture a scenario. You're in a really high-stakes meeting. Maybe it's a strategy session. You've been prepping for it all week. You pitch your big idea. You're feeling good about it. And then just silence.
The dreaded pause.
Right. And then someone, maybe a peer, maybe your boss, looks you right in the eye and says, I disagree. That won't work.
Oof.
Just like that. Flat. No smile.
I can feel the temperature in the room just drop hearing you say that.
It's so visceral, isn't it? And here's the thing that's so interesting. If you write that sentence down, I disagree, it's grammatically perfect. It's a clear, concise piece of information, but in the real world, it feels like a slap in the face.
It absolutely does. And that disconnect, the gap between what is correct language and what is actually effective communication, that's exactly what we're unpacking today.
Yeah, we've got a really interesting source for this deep dive. It's some training material from the Learning English series with hosts named John and Emma. But I want to be clear right away. We're not here to talk about, vocabulary flashcards. We're looking at this as a case study in executive presence, in soft skills.
Precisely. This is about the art of polite disagreement.
And the source material, it opens with that exact scenario. John, one of the voices in it, talks about pitching an idea and just getting hit with that blunt, that won't work. Mm-hmm. He said it didn't just kill the idea, it actually damaged the relationship.
And that is the absolute key. In high-level communication, you're rarely just debating facts. You are navigating ego, status, hierarchy. And the research points to a specific cultural context here. It notes that in a lot of English-speaking business environments, there's a huge premium placed on indirectness.
Okay, let's stop there for a second. Indirectness. Because I'll be honest, when I hear that, my brain immediately goes to passive-aggressive or just, wasting time. Why can't we just say what we mean?
It's a fair question. It's that tension between efficiency and politeness. But think of indirectness not as hiding the truth, but more like social lubrication. If you run an engine without oil, you get friction, you get heat, and the whole thing just seizes up. Direct disagreement is high friction.
So the indirectness is the oil.
Exactly. It attacks the problem while protecting the person. If I say you are wrong, I am attacking your competence. Mm-hmm. Your brain goes into threat mode. You stop listening. You just start defending. The whole goal of the toolkit we're looking at today is to bypass that threat response.
So it's basically a hack for our fight or flight response.
In a way, yes. It's about delivering bad news in a package that the other person actually allows into the building.
All right, well, let's get into this toolkit. The source lays out, I think, 5 or 6 specific strategies. The first one is a classic. I think most people have heard of the sandwich method, but the research calls it partial agreement.
Right. I know what you're thinking. The compliment sandwich. Mm-hmm. It's such a cliche.
It is. Nice tie, your report is garbage, great shoes. People see right through that.
They do, if it's insincere. But the source makes a really nuanced point here. Partial agreement isn't about fake compliments. It's about validation before the pivot. It's not saying, I like your tie. It's saying, I understand the logic that led you to this conclusion.
Okay, so give me the good version. How does this John and Emma material suggest we actually do this?
Well, the key phrases are things like, I see where you're coming from, but. Or, that's a valid point about the budget, however.
I see where you're coming from. It sounds so simple.
It is simple, but look at what it's doing mechanically. You're validating their intellect. You're saying, you aren't crazy. I can see the path you took. And that just lowers their defenses.
But doesn't the but just cancel out everything you just said? I mean, as soon as I hear, I see your point, but I'm just bracing for the hammer.
It does signal a pivot, for sure. Mm-hmm. But just imagine the alternative for a second. If I just say, no, we can't do that, well, I've built a wall. If I say, I see where you're coming from, but there's a constraint you might not be seeing, I've built a bridge.
You're framing it as a shared problem. It's not a battle of wills.
Exactly. The source also mentions the phrase, I see what you're getting at, which is even stronger, I think, because it implies you've done the mental work to understand them. Mm. It feels collaborative.
Okay, I can buy that. It's about showing respect. But let's move to the next one, because this is where I start to get a little skeptical about whether we're just being, too soft. The concept is hedging.
Or softening, yeah.
Right. This is where we sort of refuse to say anything with 100% certainty. The example in the research is the difference between saying, this is a bad idea versus, I'm not entirely sure this is the best approach.
Not entirely sure. It's a fascinating little phrase.
It's a lie. If I say, I'm not entirely sure this will work, usually what I mean is I am 100% certain this is going to explode.
You aren't wrong. It is a code. But in the context of business and, hierarchy, it's a very necessary code.
But why? Why do we have to dance around it like that? If the bridge is out, just say the bridge is out. Don't say, I'm not entirely sure the bridge is structurally sound.
Because in a meeting, you usually aren't talking about bridges. You're talking about ideas. And ideas are tied directly to people's egos. When you use a hedge, like not entirely, what you're doing is converting a fact into an opinion.
Unpack that for me. What do you mean?
Okay, so if I say this is a bad idea, I'm asserting an objective reality. I am judging you and your idea. But if I say I'm not entirely sure, I am just expressing a personal doubt. I'm making myself the subject. I'm not sure. It invites you to convince me rather than forcing you to defend yourself against some kind of verdict.
So it takes the judgment out of it. It makes it sound like my lack of understanding is the issue, rather than your bad idea.
Precisely. It allows the other person to back down without losing face. They could say, oh, I see your concern. Instead of having to admit I was wrong, it gives them an exit ramp.
An exit ramp.
I like that. So you're steering them off the highway to disaster without just yanking the wheel.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of steering conversations, the next tool in the source material is probably the most powerful one for actually changing someone's mind.
Yeah. This was my favorite part of the research, the negative question.
Yes.
To me, this felt like a full-on Jedi mind trick.
It's highly manipulative, but in the best possible way.
So the source breaks down the difference between an imperative, which is a command, and a question. Let's say we need to change a deadline.
Okay, so the blunt imperative version would be, we should change the deadline, or we need to push this back.
Which, again, grammatically, totally fine. But in a room full of stressed out people,
it comes off as bossy. It implies you have the authority to just dictate reality. We should do this. It completely shuts down the discussion.
So how does the negative question flip that script?
You change it to something like, wouldn't it be better if we changed the deadline? Or maybe, don't you think we might be rushing this? Wouldn't it be better? It sounds so innocent, but I'm still basically telling you what I want to do.
You are. But the psychological mechanism is completely different. When I ask you a question, even a leading one like that, your brain automatically engages to answer it.
So instead of fighting me, you're busy thinking about the answer.
Right. If I say, we are rushing, you might just say, no, we aren't. But if I say, don't you think we might be rushing? You actually have to pause and evaluate the speed. You become a participant in the critique.
That is so slippery.
It is. It solicits their opinion. You're granting them status by asking what they think, even though you are guiding them toward the conclusion you already want. It makes the idea feel shared.
It turns my idea into our idea.
Exactly. And in negotiation or management, that is the holy grail. If the other person thinks they came up with a solution, or at least that they helped validate it, they will fight for it. If you force it on them, they'll just resent it.
I can see that. Don't you think? Is a lot harder to get angry at than you should.
And the source also highlights, don't you agree that? It's a way of checking the temperature while you gently push your agenda forward.
Okay, so we're hedging, we're asking negative questions, we're validating. But sometimes, you have to play a specific role. You don't actually disagree, but your job is to find the flaws.
The stress test.
The stress test, right. But nobody wants to be the no guy. Nobody wants to be the person who pokes holes in the CEO's pet project.
And this is where the source introduces the safety net, the whole concept of playing devil's advocate.
Let me play devil's advocate for a moment.
This is a phrase the source really emphasizes for advanced speakers, and for a very good reason. It's a declaration of intent.
It's like putting on a costume or a different hat.
Yes, exactly. When you say, let me play devil's advocate, you are explicitly stating, the words coming out of my mouth right now do not necessarily reflect how I feel. I am performing a role to test the logic of your argument.
That is such a useful distinction, because if I just say, what if the budget gets cut? It sounds like I'm just being a pessimist.
Or that you don't believe in the team's ability to, raise the funds.
Right. But if I say, let me play devil's advocate here, what happens if the budget gets cut? Now I'm just being a responsible strategist.
You are depersonalizing the critique. You're signaling, hey, I'm on your team. I want this to work, but I am going to attack it now so that the market doesn't destroy us later.
It just removes the emotion. It creates a kind of safe space for negativity.
Which is vital. I mean, I've seen teams fail because everyone was too polite to point out a huge glaring flaw. They didn't have a devil's advocate protocol, so they just smiled and nodded the ship right into an iceberg.
That's a terrifying thought, that politeness can actually be the cause of failure.
Excessive harmony is a genuine business risk. The devil's advocate phrase is the tool to introduce that productive disharmony safely.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. We've talked about all these ways to soften the blow, to hedge, to pivot, but sometimes the answer is just no.
The hard no.
Yeah, you can't sandwich it, you can't negative question it away, you just have to stop the train. How do John and Emma suggest we handle that without looking like a total jerk?
They talk about what they call the I'm afraid paradox.
I'm afraid I can't do that. I'm afraid I have to disagree.
And the source makes a funny point about this. I mean, literally, I'm afraid implies fear.
Yeah.
Like you're actually scared.
Right. I am trembling with terror that I cannot attend your 3 o'clock meeting.
Exactly. But of course, in communication theory, this is known as a politeness marker. It has nothing to do with fear. It has everything to do with regret.
Or regret.
Yes. The subtext of I'm afraid I can't is basically, I wish I could say yes, I value our relationship, but circumstances are forcing me to say no.
So it's not you, it's me of the business world.
In a way, yeah. It frames the refusal as something slightly outside of your control, or at least something you aren't happy about. Just compare I won't do that with I'm afraid I can't do that.
I won't sounds like a personal choice, a challenge. I'm afraid I can't sounds like a constraint.
It wraps the brick in velvet. It's still a brick. You are still stopping the conversation, but you aren't leaving a bruise on the other person's ego.
And what if it's not about a request, but just a fundamental disagreement? You know, we've argued for an hour, I've used the sandwich, you've used the negative question, and we still just think the other person is wrong.
The deadlock.
The deadlock. The source offers one final idiom for this exact situation. We don't see eye to eye.
We don't see eye to eye on this. It's the ultimate agree to disagree.
But is that just giving up?
No, I don't think so. It's compartmentalizing. It says, we respect each other, we work well together in general, but on this one specific point, our lines just don't cross.
So it preserves the broader relationship despite the specific conflict.
Exactly. It stops this one disagreement from infecting all of your other interactions. You're flagging it as an anomaly, not a total breakdown.
So, wow, we've built quite a toolkit here. We have the validation sandwich to lower defenses. We have hedging to turn facts into opinions. We have negative questions to kind of hijack the brain's problem-solving mode. Then there's the devil's advocate safety net. And finally, the I'm afraid polite refusal.
It's a really comprehensive set of social armor.
It is, and the source material frames all this as the art of polite disagreement. But I want to push back on this a little bit as we wrap up.
Please, play devil's advocate.
Exactly. Look, I get the psychology. I get that we need to protect egos. But isn't there a danger here? If I spend 5 minutes telling you, I see where you're coming from and I'm not entirely sure, and wouldn't it be better if, isn't there a chance you just have no idea what I'm actually saying?
That is the #1 risk of high context communication. Ambiguity.
Right. I've been in meetings where someone hedged so much that the other person walked away thinking they got a yes.
That's the classic soft no disaster. You thought you were being polite. They thought you were being supportive.
Exactly. You know, I'm not entirely sure about the budget can be heard as the budget is flexible, when what you really meant was there is no money.
And this is where the skill comes in. The art isn't just about using the phrases. It's about calibration.
Yeah.
You have to make sure the message actually lands.
So how do you balance that?
You have to read the room. If you're dealing with someone who is very literal, or maybe from a culture that values extreme directness, like certain Northern European business cultures, these softeners might just sound like noise, or worse, like you're being slippery.
So you can't just blindly apply the sandwich method to every situation.
No. The source material emphasizes emotional intelligence. That's the real takeaway here. It's not about memorizing a script. It's about empathy. It's about asking yourself, what does this person need to hear right now to accept this difficult information?
And sometimes they need a sandwich. Sometimes they just need the brick.
And knowing the difference is why executives get paid the big bucks.
I think that's the so what of this entire deep dive, isn't it? We aren't just learning some English phrases. We're learning how to manipulate, and I use that word neutrally, the emotional climate of a room.
We are learning to reduce friction. In physics, friction creates heat and wear. In business, friction creates drama and burnout. These tools are friction reducers.
I love that. So here's my challenge to everyone listening. The next time you are in a meeting and you feel that urge to just say, no, that's wrong, just stop. Take a breath.
Check your toolkit.
Try a negative question. Don't you think we should maybe look at the data again? See what happens to the energy in the room?
You might be surprised. You might get your way without ever having to fight for it.
And isn't that the dream, getting your way while everyone else smiles and thinks it was their idea?
That is absolutely the dream.
But I do want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over. We've spent this whole time praising indirectness. We've called it social lubrication. But I wonder, at what point does all this politeness just become a barrier to truth?
That's a heavy question.
Right. If we're all so terrified of offending each other that we have to speak in these codes, not entirely, I'm afraid, devil's advocate, are we actually solving problems? Or are we just painting pretty pictures of burning buildings because we're too polite to scream fire?
It's that core tension between cohesion and clarity.
Exactly. So my final thought is, master the art of polite disagreement, absolutely, but always ask yourself, is my message getting through the velvet? Or am I just making the rejection feel so good that nobody realizes they've been rejected?
A very delicate balance indeed.
Something to think about the next time someone tells you, I see where you're coming from.
Indeed.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
I want you to picture a specific moment. It's a moment I think everyone listening has felt, probably more often than they'd like to admit. You're in a meeting. Maybe it's a high-stakes performance review, or maybe you're just, negotiating where to go for dinner with a friend. The air conditioning is humming. You've got your coffee. Everything seems fine on the surface. And then someone says something.
The trigger point.
Exactly, the trigger. And, instantly that you disagree. Not just a little bit. You think they're dead wrong. Or maybe you realize you have to ask for something that they don't want to give you. And you feel that physical sensation, that tightening in the chest, the heat rising up the back of your neck.
The lizard brain waking up.
Right. It's that fight or flight response kicking in. You know you have to push back. But you also know that if you say the wrong thing, right now, in the heat of this moment, the relationship blows up. It feels like you're walking on a wire.
It's a moment of social vertigo. That is, I think, the best way to describe it. You are standing on a precipice. One step forward is the truth, saying what you really think. But it's also a long, long fall if you don't land it right.
Social vertigo. I like that. And usually when we talk about this, when we look for advice on how to handle these moments, we get told to just be polite. We're told to mind our manners. Say please, say thank you, smile, maybe soften your voice.
Which is, it's well-intentioned advice, certainly, but honestly, it's effectively useless in a high-stakes environment. Manners are for dinner parties. They are for holding doors open. What you need in a boardroom or a tense negotiation isn't etiquette, it's strategy.
And that is exactly what caught my attention with the stack of research we're diving into today. We aren't looking at an etiquette guide. We are looking at what the sources call linguistic aikido.
It is an incredibly evocative term, isn't it?
It really is. And I have to be honest with you, and with you, the listener, when I first saw the title of the source material, which was something pretty dry like the grammar of politeness, I was ready to snooze. I really thought we were going to be conjugating verbs and talking about where to put the comma.
You were expecting a high school English class.
Exactly. But then I started reading the breakdown. This isn't about following rules. This is about how advanced speakers, often without even realizing they're doing it, use specific grammatical structures to manipulate, reality, almost.
Manipulate might be a strong word, but in this context, it's not entirely inaccurate. The central thesis of our deep dive today is that grammar isn't just a code for meaning. It is a tool for altering the psychological distance between two people.
This is the concept that really stuck with me, and I want to make sure we spend enough time on it because it sounds insane. The idea is that we can use specific grammatical tenses to, and I'm not joking here, warp time and space during an argument.
You are going straight for the time travel concept.
I have to. It sounds like sci-fi. But the sources are adamant. They claim you can use the past tense to soften a present blow.
You absolutely can. And it's something you have probably heard 1,000 times, but you never stopped to analyze why it worked. You just knew, that you felt better after hearing it.
So here's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to deconstruct this linguistic aikido. We're going to take apart the engine of polite disagreement. We're looking at distancing. We're looking at the safe no. And we're looking at how to tell someone they're wrong without ever actually saying the word wrong.
And I want to add one thing before we jump in, just to frame this correctly for everyone listening.
Go ahead.
This isn't just about being nice. I think that is a huge misconception about politeness strategies. We often think politeness is about submission or about sparing someone's feelings at the expense of the truth. This research suggests something very different. This is about efficiency.
Efficiency. How is adding more words to a sentence efficient?
Because blunt force communication, saying exactly what you mean immediately with no filter, actually slows things down. It raises defenses. It creates friction. If I trigger your ego, you stop listening to my argument and start defending your status. The techniques we're covering today, they are lubricants. They make the machinery of business and relationships move faster because they remove the friction of ego.
So we're not learning to be doormats. We're learning to be operators.
Precisely. We are learning to get what we want without the collateral damage.
All right. Let's get into the mechanics. I want to start with this time travel idea because I still think it sounds a little bit like magic. The source material calls this distancing.
Right. So to understand the time travel technique or distancing, we first have to look at its opposite. We have to look at what you just called blunt force, the present tense.
Okay, give me a blunt force example. Let's set the scene.
Let's say you need a report from me. It's due, I haven't sent it, and you are getting impatient. You walk up to my desk, you look me in the eye, you say, I want the report.
Oof. Okay. I mean, it's clear. It's direct. There's no ambiguity there. But
Yeah,
my hackles are up just hearing you say it. It feels like an order.
why? What is it about that sentence, I want the report, that triggers that reaction? What's happening inside?
I don't know. It feels like you're demanding something from me right now. It feels entitled. Like my time doesn't matter. Only your want matters.
Right now is the key. In the English language, and in many languages actually, the present simple tense, I want, I need, I expect, carries the weight of immediacy. By stating your desire in the present, you are putting it right in my face. It occupies the space between us right now.
It feels like I'm shining a flashlight in your eyes. It's blinding.
That's a great analogy. It's intense.
Yeah.
And psychologically, when someone demands something in the immediate present, it triggers a binary response in the listener. Compliance or defiance.
Right. I either have to give in, which feels like losing, or I have to fight back, which creates conflict. There's no third option.
Exactly. It attacks what sociologists call negative face.
Negative face. Is that like having a resting grumpy face?
No, not quite. In sociology, you have two faces. Positive face is your desire to be liked, to be seen as a good member of the group. Negative face is your desire to be autonomous and unimpeded. You want to be free to do what you want when you want. When I say, I want this, I am impeding your freedom. I am attacking your negative face.
So you're basically telling me your autonomy is less important than my need.
Precisely. And nobody likes to hear that.
Okay, so I'm at your desk. I need the report. The report is too aggressive because it attacks your autonomy. How do we use the time machine to fix this?
We move the desire into the past. We use time to create that distance. Look at the phrase from our source material. I was wondering if you had the report.
I was wondering. It's so simple.
Let's parse that. Was wondering. Grammatically, that is the past continuous tense.
So strictly speaking, I'm talking about a wondering that happened, 10 minutes ago? Before I walk up to the desk.
Or 10 seconds ago. It doesn't matter. But the logic, and this is the aikido part, is that by placing the verb in the past, you are technically stating that the wondering has already happened. You aren't wondering right now, in my face. You were wondering.
Wait, but isn't that a lie? I mean, obviously, I'm standing there, I'm staring at you. I'm still wondering where my report is.
It is a social fiction, a polite fiction that we all agree to. But look at what it does to the pressure. If you say, I want, the pressure is a 10 out of 10. If you say, I was wondering, you're implying, hey, this thought popped into my head a while ago. I'm just casually bringing it up now.
It creates a cushion. It's like putting a pillow between my request and your face.
It creates distance. That's why it's called distancing. You are distancing yourself from the immediacy of the demand. You're saying, this isn't a demand I'm making at you right now. It's a thought I had near you.
A thought I had near you. I love that description. It takes the target off my chest.
And it allows me, the listener, to relax. Because you aren't cornering me, I don't have to fight. I'm not trapped, so I can actually think about your request instead of my defense.
The source material mentions a few variations of this. I was wondering is the classic. But there are others, right? Because if I start every sentence with, I was wondering, I'm going to sound like a broken record.
Oh, absolutely. I was hoping is a massive one. It's very, very common in requests. Just compare, I hope you can help me versus I was hoping you could help me.
Okay, let's break that down.
Yeah.
I hope you can help me sounds almost desperate or maybe expectant.
It sounds like an expectation. I hope you do this. It implies that if I don't do it, I have failed your hope. It puts the burden squarely on my shoulders.
Right. It's like Here is my hope, don't you dare drop it.
Whereas I was hoping.
I was hoping sounds like a wish. It's tentative. It suggests I had this hope, but I understand if it can't happen. It's softer.
And this brings us to the most valuable tactical application of this grammar, something the notes highlight as critical, the safe no.
The safe no. Break down what that means.
When you use the past continuous, I was wondering, you are signaling to the other person that you are aware your request might be rejected. You are pre-validating their refusal.
You're giving them an out.
Yes, you're building them a beautiful, well-lit, clearly marked exit ramp. And counterintuitively, giving people an out makes them much more likely to say yes.
Really? That feels backwards. If I give them an out, won't they just take it?
Not usually. Think about human nature. If I feel trapped, my instinct is to resist. I push back against the cage, but if I feel free to say no, I feel respected. My autonomy is intact. And because I feel respected, I'm more inclined to help you. I want to help the person who respects my freedom. I want to fight the person who tries to take it away.
So by lowering the stakes, we actually increase the success rate.
Massively. You remove the ego from the equation.
Okay, let's try a really difficult scenario. One from the notes. You're a junior manager. You have to walk into the CEO's office. The CEO just announced a new initiative. Let's call it Project X. And, for a fact, it's going to bankrupt the department.
High stakes. Very high stakes.
If I go in there and say Project X is a disaster, I'm packing up my desk.
You're done. That's blunt force. Project X is bad. You are attacking the CEO's judgment in the present tense. You are, in effect, calling their baby ugly.
So how do I use the toolkit? Walk me through the construction of the sentence. I need to get this right.
You need to distance. You need to time travel.
Okay, so I start with, I was thinking about Project X.
Good start. But thinking is a bit neutral. It doesn't imply a request. Let's layer in some wondering or hoping.
I was wondering if we could look at the budget numbers for Project X again.
Much better. Now layer in the safe no, make it even softer, add some conditional phrases, what linguists call hedges.
Okay. I was wondering if it might be possible to take another look at the budget numbers.
Listen to the difference. Just feel it. Compare that to, we need to look at the numbers.
It feels like I'm approaching a wild animal. I'm moving slow. I'm not making sudden movements. I was wondering if it might be possible. The whole thing is tentative.
And notice what you did with the content itself. You didn't say the project is bad. You said, I was wondering if we could look at the numbers. You invited the CEO to a collaborative activity, looking at something together, rather than a confrontation where you judge their decision.
But here is my worry. And I think some listeners might be thinking this too. Does this make me sound weak?
The weakness argument. I hear this all the time in leadership coaching. It's a very common concern.
Yeah. I was hoping if it's possible. It sounds wishy-washy. If I want to be a leader, shouldn't I be decisive? Shouldn't I be, alpha?
This is a common trap. People confuse directness with leadership. They're not the same thing. Look at the most effective negotiators in the world. Look at, say, hostage negotiators. Do they walk in with a megaphone shouting demands, I want the hostages now?
Probably not. That gets people hurt.
Exactly. They build rapport. They lower the temperature. They use this kind of language constantly. Using distancing doesn't mean you don't know what you want. You know exactly what you want. You want the CEO to kill the project. But you are smart enough to know that triggering the CEO's ego will kill you instead of the project.
So it's tactical weakness. It's strategic softness.
It is camouflage. You are wrapping a hard object, your disagreement, in a soft towel. The grammar, the impact is just as heavy, the request is the same, but it doesn't leave a bruise.
I like that image, the hard object and the soft towel.
And there's one more nuance here from the source material regarding grammar that I found fascinating. It's about the continuous part of past continuous.
Go on. We skipped over that.
We said, I was wondering, why not the past simple? I wondered.
I wondered if you could help me versus I was wondering if you could help me. It's subtle. I wondered. Feels a bit more final, like it's already over.
It is. I wondered is the past simple. It implies the action is finished and done. I wondered once yesterday, and now I'm done wondering. It feels a bit colder, a bit more factual.
Like reading a report. Subject wondered about the budget. It's very detached.
Exactly. But I was wondering uses the continuous aspect, the ing. It implies an ongoing process. I was wondering, and I am arguably still wondering. It feels more fluid. It suggests that the thought is alive and developing.
Which invites the other person to step into that development, I was thinking. Invites them to think with you.
Precisely. It keeps the door open. Past simple shuts the door. Past continuous leaves it ajar.
It's incredible how much work 3 little letters, ing, are doing there.
That is the power of grammar. It signals intent way, way before the vocabulary catches up.
Okay, so we've mastered time travel. We're living in the past continuous. But now we have to deal with a different problem. The problem of flow.
Yes, the interruption.
This is something I struggle with personally, and I'm sure I'm not alone. You're in a meeting or a dinner party, and someone just won't stop. They are monologuing. Maybe they're wrong, or maybe you just have a crucial piece of info they're missing, but you can't get a word in edgewise.
The nonstop talker. We all know one. Or we all have been one at some point.
The source material calls this the challenge, because the instinct, that lizard brain again, is to just shout, "Stop!" or "Let someone else talk."
Which is the verbal equivalent of a slap in the face. It's pure aggression.
Right. But if you say nothing, you're complicit. If they're giving bad info to the whole team and you stay silent, you're part of the problem. So how do we stop them without destroying the vibe?
It is a delicate operation. The goal, according to our sources, is to contribute, not to silence. That's the mindset shift that you have to make first.
We aren't trying to shut them down. We're trying to open the floor for another idea.
Exactly. And the strategy here relies on a concept called validation before interruption. You have to signal that you are listening and that you value what they're saying before you take the mic.
So let's look at the tactical phrasing here. The first one is a phrasal verb that I really like. Can I just jump in here for a second?
Jump in. It's a fascinating choice of words, isn't it? The source highlights the specific verb for a reason.
It is. Why jump? Why not can I speak or can I say something?
Well, think about the image it conjures. It's kinetic, it's energetic, it implies positive movement. If you imagine a conversation as a flowing river, saying stop is building a dam, it blocks the flow, it arrests the energy.
And people hate dams, they want to keep flowing.
But saying, can I jump in, it implies that you want to join the stream. You want to swim alongside them. You aren't trying to stop the river, you're just trying to get wet.
It feels collaborative. It's like, hey, the water's great, let me get in there with you. It's inclusive.
Exactly. It frames the interruption as enthusiasm rather than correction. I'm so excited by what you're saying that I have to jump in. It's a positive frame.
That's a great reframe. Even if I'm actually interrupting to correct a factual error, I'm framing my entry as enthusiasm for the topic.
It's the spoonful of sugar that helps the medicine go down.
What about when you need to be a bit more formal? Maybe jumping in feels too casual for a board meeting with serious stakeholders.
A very fair point. The source suggests a slightly more structured approach for those situations. Sorry to interrupt, but I'd like to add something to that point.
Okay, let's break that down piece by piece. You start with an apology.
Yes. Sorry to interrupt. You are acknowledging the social breach. You know you are breaking the flow. That shows respect. You aren't oblivious to the social rules, but then you immediately pivot to value. I'd like to add something.
You aren't interrupting to subtract. You're interrupting to add.
That is the key. You are promising that your interruption will bring value to the speaker's point. You aren't tearing them down. You are building on top of what they said. Even if you are about to completely disagree, you frame the entry as an addition.
There's one more phrase here that I think is really powerful, especially when you need to really pump the brakes. Like if someone is really rambling and you need to take control.
Yeah.
If I could just stop you there for a moment.
This one is more assertive for sure. It's often used with the person's name, which amplifies its power. Emma, if I could just stop you there for a moment.
Using the name is a power move, right? It cuts through the noise.
It arrests attention, it grabs them. The brain is hardwired to respond to our own name. It snaps us out of autopilot. It's a pattern interrupt.
But isn't stop you aggressive? We just talked about not building a dam.
But look at the qualifier. Stop you there. Not stop you there. It treats the conversation like a journey or a map. Let's pause at this landmark. It's not stop talking forever. It's let's pause here and look at this specific point you just made.
That's a subtle but really important distinction. Stop talking is personal. It's about their behavior. Stop you there is spatial. It's about the topic.
Exactly. It redirects focus from the person to the content.
Okay, so we've successfully interrupted, we've jumped in, we've paused the journey, now we have the floor. All eyes are on us. But we usually interrupted because we disagree. We think they're wrong. How do we pivot to the disagreement without undoing all that polite work?
This is where we see the pivot. This is the core aikido move. And the source provides a brilliant geometric metaphor for it. Another angle.
As in, I think there is another angle we need to consider.
Yes. Now consider the alternative, the blunt force alternative. You could say, I think you are wrong.
You're wrong. It's binary. It's a light switch. True or false, 1 or 0.
And if I am wrong, I lose status. I look stupid in front of the group. So what will I do? I will fight you. I will defend my rightness to the death, even if I secretly suspect I might be wrong. I have to defend my ego. The content of the conversation is now secondary to the status game we're playing.
So you're wrong starts a war.
A war of attrition. But if you say, that's a great point, and I think there might be another angle, you are changing the geometry of the conversation.
You're saying the problem is a 3D object. You're looking at the front, and that's valid. I'm just looking at it from the side.
Exactly. It implies that both views can exist simultaneously. It doesn't require me to be wrong for you to be right. We are just looking at different facets of the same truth. My view isn't deleted, your view is added.
That is so much less threatening. Another angle. It invites curiosity. Oh, what's the angle you see? Show me.
It shifts the dynamic from debate, where there is a winner and a loser to investigation, where we are partners trying to map out the object.
We're on the same side of the table, looking at the problem, instead of on opposite sides looking at each other.
That is the ultimate goal of linguistic aikido, to move from face-to-face conflict to shoulder-to-shoulder collaboration.
This connects perfectly to the next section of our deep dive, which is all about how we frame those observations once we've pivoted. The source calls this subjectivity versus dogmatism.
This is a big one. This is, I think, where most arguments go completely off the rails.
The problem, as the source describes it, is dogmatism.
Yeah.
It's when we state our opinions as if they are objective facts.
Right. The example given in the research is simple but perfect. That design is ugly.
That design is ugly. It sounds like a fact, like saying that water is wet or the sky is blue. It's a statement about the world.
Exactly. Grammatically, you are using the verb to be. The design is ugly. You are attributing the quality of ugliness to the object itself. You are saying it is an inherent factual property of this design that it is ugly.
And that closes down the conversation. If I designed it and you say it's ugly, you are attacking my work. You are attacking reality. You're not just attacking me, you're attacking objective truth.
It invites defense. It forces me to prove that it is not ugly. Now we are fighting over the nature of the object, which is an unwinnable argument.
So what's the solution? How do we fix that design is ugly without lying and saying we like it? Because we still need to communicate the problem.
We move from objectivity to subjectivity. We own the opinion. We take responsibility for the judgment.
The toolkit here includes phrases like, from my perspective, or the way I see it.
So that design is ugly becomes, from my perspective, the design doesn't quite work.
Or, to my mind, the colors are clashing. Or, in my experience, this kind of layout can be confusing for users.
Note the shift. You are no longer talking about the object's nature. You are talking about your reaction to the object.
The way I see it.
That is unassailable. This is the aikido move. If you say the design is ugly, I can argue with you. I can show you design principles that say it's beautiful. I can bring in a focus group that loves it. But if you say, the way I see it, the design is ugly, I cannot argue with that.
Right. I can't tell you, no, that isn't the way you see it. Your perspective is your own.
Exactly. You are the world's leading expert on your own perspective. By owning the opinion, by using these subjective markers, in my experience, to my mind, you are creating a shield. You are making yourself invulnerable to counterattack because you aren't claiming to speak the absolute truth. You're just sharing your view.
It feels like taking responsibility, too. It's less accusing. Instead of saying, you messed up this design, I'm saying, I am not connecting with this design. The focus is on me, not you.
It lowers the defenses of the other person. They don't have to defend the object. They just have to understand your perspective. It opens the door for empathy. Oh, you see it that way. Interesting. Help me understand why. I see it this way.
And again, we are back to that geometric metaphor, comparing angles, not fighting over whose map is the real one.
Precisely. You are showing me your angle, not telling me my angle is wrong.
But, and there is always a but.
Yeah.
We have to be realistic here. What happens when you do all of this? You've used the distancing past. I was wondering. You've used the polite interruption. Can I jump in? You've used subjectivity, from my perspective. You have done everything right. You've been the perfect linguistic aikido master. And you still disagree.
The dreaded stalemate.
You are just stuck. The source calls this section the escape hatch. Because you can't just keep arguing forever, right? At some point, it becomes destructive.
No, you can't. And this is where many conversations turn toxic. People feel like they have to win before they can stop talking. If they haven't convinced the other person, they keep hammering away. They repeat the same points, just louder.
The broken record phase, it's painful to watch and even more painful to be in.
It destroys relationships. It destroys morale in a team. So you need an exit strategy. You need a way to stop the car before it crashes into the wall.
So how do we exit without winning, but also without losing? How do we preserve the relationship?
The source gives us two powerful tools here. One is a classic social idiom, and one is a very useful business phrase.
Let's start with a classic. Let's agree to disagree.
It's a cliche for a reason. It does a lot of heavy lifting in one short sentence.
What is it actually saying structurally? Because on the surface, it can sound like a cop-out.
What it's really saying is this. We have reached a point where our opinions are not going to converge. The Venn diagram of our views has no overlap on this topic. However, I value our relationship more than I value being right about this specific thing.
That's a powerful message. It prioritizes the person over the problem.
It signals the end of the argument, but the continuation of the relationship. It is a peace treaty. I respect your right to your opinion. You respect mine. Let's stop fighting. It acknowledges that reasonable, intelligent people can look at the same facts and come to different conclusions.
But that feels a bit personal. Maybe a bit emotional for a strict business setting. If I tell my boss, let's agree to disagree about a major compliance issue, I might get fired.
You are absolutely right. In a boardroom, if you are debating a strategic direction or a legal requirement, agree to disagree might sound like you're giving up, or worse, being insubordinate. It doesn't work when a decision must be made. That is where the second phrase comes in. Let's park this for now.
Let's park this. I hear this in corporate settings all the time. It's almost buzzword bingo.
It is, but don't dismiss it because it's popular. The metaphor is brilliant. We are driving a car. The idea, the argument. We aren't getting anywhere. The road is blocked. So what do? We pull the car over and park it.
We aren't abandoning the car. We aren't driving it off a cliff. We're just leaving it there for a while.
For now. That's the key part. For now. It implies we can come back and pick it up later. Or quite often we leave it there forever.
The parking lot of ideas is often a graveyard. I think I have about 50 ideas parked in a lot somewhere that have rusted over by now.
It is. But it is a polite graveyard, and that distinction matters immensely.
Why is parking it better than just changing the subject? Why not just say, okay, moving on?
If I just say moving on, I'm dismissing you. I'm saying your point isn't worth the time. It feels like a judgment. But if I say, let's park this, I am saying this is a valid topic. It's a real car. It deserves a parking spot, but we don't have the time or the resources to drive it right now.
It validates the importance of the topic while effectively killing the discussion for the moment.
Exactly. It saves time, which is efficiency, and it saves space, which is protecting the ego. It prevents the meeting from spiraling into a circular argument where everyone feels the need to have the last word. Parking it creates a neutral space where the argument can rest without a winner or a loser.
It seems like all of these strategies, distancing, interrupting, subjectivity, parking, they all share a common DNA. And the source brings us back full circle to this metaphor of linguistic aikido.
Yes, the synthesis of all these parts. It's the unifying theory.
For those who don't know, aikido is a Japanese martial art. But unlike, say, boxing, where you meet force with force, you block a punch and throw a punch, aikido is about flow.
It is about blending with the attacker's energy. If someone pushes you, you don't push back harder. You guide their push. You turn with it. You pull them. If they pull you, you enter. You deflect and redirect. You never meet force with force.
So let's look at our toolkit through that specific lens. When we use the distancing past, I was wondering, we are deflecting the pressure of the request.
Right. We aren't punching them with, I want. That's a direct strike. We are gliding in with, I was wondering. We are removing the force from the impact. We are stepping back to create space.
And when we use subjectivity from my perspective, we are deflecting the confrontation of a factual claim.
We are sidestepping the truth war. You say, it's ugly. That's a punch. I say, you're wrong. That's a block. That's boxing. You get bruised. But if you say, it's ugly, and I say, interesting, from my perspective, I have stepped out of the way of your punch and invited you to look at my view. I haven't fought you. I've just shifted the angle of the conversation.
And parking it. What's the aikido move there?
That is redirecting the energy of a stalemate into a holding pattern. The energy was spinning in circles, a vortex. We took that chaotic energy and smoothly redirected it into a parking spot so we can all move forward on a different path.
It really is a martial art. It takes practice. You can't just read about it and be a black belt.
It requires mindfulness. You have to be aware of the force, in your own words. You have to notice when you're about to throw a punch. And that is the hardest part.
Why is it so hard? Why is our default so often blunt force?
Because when we are stressed or angry or passionate, our default setting is the lizard brain. We revert to the primitive part of our neurology. We want to hit things with hammers. You are wrong, stop talking. It's simple and direct.
It takes conscious effort to engage the time travel drive when your heart is racing and you feel attacked.
It does. It takes practice and self-awareness, but the payoff is immense. Relationships are preserved, deals are made, egos are protected, you get what you want, and the other person often thanks you for it.
So let's wrap this up with a summary of the toolkit. If you're listening, here is your cheat sheet for linguistic aikido.
Number 1, distancing. When you need to ask for something or disagree, step back in time. Use the past continuous. I was wondering, I was hoping, I was thinking, cushion the blow.
Number 2, the polite interruption. Remember, the goal is to contribute, not to silence. Use "can I jump in" to signal enthusiasm, or "sorry to interrupt, but I'd like to add something" to signal value. Validate before you violate the silence.
Number 3, subjectivity. Own your opinions. Replace "this is bad" with "from my perspective, this doesn't work." Make yourself unassailable by claiming only your own view.
And number 4, the escape hatch. If you were stuck in a stalemate, don't burn the bridge. Use "agree to disagree" to save the friendship, or "park it" to save the meeting. Live to fight another day.
A simple toolkit on the surface, but a powerful one when you master it.
So here is the challenge for this week. We want you to try this. Just once.
Start small. Don't try it in a crisis negotiation on day 1. Try it on an email.
Yes. That's perfect. The next time you have to ask someone for something or chase someone up, don't write "I need this." Write, "I was wondering if you had a chance to look at this."
And just observe the difference in the response. Observe the tone. See if it changes the interaction.
I bet you'll find that people are more responsive, less defensive, and generally nicer to deal with.
It changes the atmosphere. It removes the static from the communication channel.
And that leads us to our final thought for this deep dive. The source material hints at this, but I want to leave you with this question. If language truly creates our reality,
A profound concept to end on.
then using softer grammar doesn't just make us polite. It literally changes the time and space in which our conflicts happen.
It asks the question, are we choosing to fight in the harsh, immediate, high-pressure present? Or are we choosing to collaborate in the cushioned, reflective, lower-pressure past?
It gives us a choice of where we want to live. In the friction or in the flow.
I choose the flow.
Me too. Keep jumping in, everyone.
And keep finding those new angles. I want to start today with a confession, a pretty painful one, actually. I was looking through my sent folder this morning, digging for an email I sent about 3 days ago to a colleague. Let's just call him Dave.
Okay.
So Dave and I, we're usually good. We're on the same team. We grab coffee sometimes. It's all fine. But he sent me a slide deck for a presentation we have coming up. And honestly, the data was a mess. It was just wrong. I mean, the formatting was off. The numbers didn't add up on slide 4. It was just sloppy.
I can feel the frustration rising just hearing you describe it.
Right. So I'm in a rush. I'm on my phone, literally walking to the subway, and I fire off a reply. I'm trying to be efficient, save us both some time. So I type, "Dave, numbers on slide 4 are wrong. Please fix and resend." Send. Phone goes in the pocket. Problem solved. Or so I thought.
Efficient, direct, factual.
Exactly. I mean, I was technically correct. The numbers were wrong. I even said please. But here we are 3 days later, and I have heard absolutely nothing from Dave.
Radio silence.
Total radio silence. And when I walked past his desk this morning, he suddenly became very, very interested in his stapler. Like he would not make eye contact. And I'm sitting there thinking, what happened? I was right. Why am I the bad guy here?
And that is the classic tragedy of the modern workplace, isn't it?
Yeah.
You won the battle of the facts. You were absolutely right about the numbers, but you lost the war of influence.
I lost the war.
You did. And usually, when you find yourself in that radio silence zone, The missing ingredient isn't what you said. It's almost entirely about how you said it.
It's the vibe, it's the delivery, and that is exactly what we are digging into today.
Right.
We're doing a deep dive into the art of polite disagreement. But I want to be clear right off the bat, we aren't talking about like basic manners here. We aren't talking about saying please and thank you and holding the door open.
No, this is much deeper than etiquette. We're looking at the psychology of communication. We're analyzing why perfectly grammatical, factually correct sentences can absolutely destroy relationships.
Or get you ignored by your colleagues for 3 days.
Or get you ignored for 3 days. And we're looking at how these subtle shifts in tone, things you might not even be aware you're doing, can completely change the trajectory of your career.
And to guide us through this, we are looking at some really fascinating source material. It's from the Learning English podcast, specifically a series on polite disagreement they did with hosts Emma and John.
Now, I just want to jump in here because when people hear learning English, they might think it's for beginners.
Right. I already speak English. Why do I need this?
Exactly. But this material is specifically designed for C1 and C2 level speakers. That is near native mastery. This is like the PhD level of nuance.
The black belt of communication.
Yes. This isn't for people learning how to order a coffee. This is for people who need to navigate complex, high-stakes social environments. Think boardrooms, academic defenses, delicate negotiations.
And you know what?
What's that?
The insights they provide are probably more relevant for native speakers who've gotten a bit lazy than they are for beginners.
I completely agree. We get complacent.
Which brings me back to my email to Dave. I have a sneaking suspicion that by the end of this hour, I am going to realize exactly why Dave is now best friends with his stapler.
I think you might. The mission for this deep dive is to decode that subtle music of your voice, your intonation, and then, even harder, figure out how to transfer that music into the cold, dead vacuum of written communication.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. The vacuum of email.
We're going to break down specific strategies, including something they call the sandwich method, which I know you have some strong feelings about.
Oh, I have very strong feelings about the sandwich method. It usually feels so manipulative. But okay, we'll get there.
We will. But let's start with the spoken word first. Because if you can't get the tone right when you're speaking, you have absolutely no hope of getting it right in an email.
Okay, where do we start?
The source material kicks off with what they call the golden rule.
A golden rule. Okay. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. I feel like I've heard that a million times. It's on, like, motivational posters in every HR office in the country.
It is a total cliche.
But what does that actually mean? Because I said, please fix it to Dave. The what was polite, the how was just text.
Well, let's put text aside for a second and look at it through the lens of spoken English. The source highlights a very specific mistake that advanced intelligent speakers make constantly.
Okay.
They learn a polite phrase. Let's take a standard one for disagreement. I'm afraid I disagree.
All right, I'm afraid I disagree. It's formal. It's standard. It's not you're an idiot.
Right. Semantically, that is the dictionary definition of the words, it's perfectly polite. But, and this is the key, the hosts point out that if you deliver that polite phrase with a flat falling intonation, you completely negate the politeness.
You cancel it out.
You cancel it out. In fact, you might actually sound even ruder than if you just said no.
A flat fall. Okay, let's unpack this. I'm trying to visualize the sound wave here. What does that actually sound like?
Picture a robot. Or, even better, picture a judge delivering a verdict from the bench. The pitch starts mid-level and then just drops sharply at the end of the sentence. I'm afraid I disagree. Boom. It just hits the floor.
I'm afraid I disagree. Yeah, I can feel that. It feels heavy. It feels final.
It signals finality. In linguistics, we talk about prosody, the rhythm and pitch of speech. And a falling pitch at the end of a sentence in English typically signals a statement of fact or a command. It says, this is the truth. The end.
Wow. So when I say I'm afraid I disagree with that drop, I'm not really disagreeing. I'm basically saying, I have decided you are wrong and there is no further discussion to be had.
Precisely. It is a verbal door slam. And the listener gets this weird, dissonant message. The words are, I'm afraid, which suggests some level of regret or softness.
Right. Afraid sounds gentle.
But the music, the tone, is aggressive. And the primitive part of our brain, the part that's always scanning for threats, always prioritizes the tone over the words.
So the brain hears the aggression first. Why is that? Why does the tone always win?
Evolution, really. We were grunting at each other and interpreting tone long before we had complex grammar. Tone conveys intent. Is this person a friend or a foe? Are they attacking me Or are they trying to help me? A flat, falling tone is very high status. It's dominant.
High status.
It says, I am above you, and I am correcting you.
That is such a good image, the high status voice. So if I'm in a meeting and I use that tone to disagree with my boss, I'm technically challenging them to a dominance hierarchy battle right there in the conference room.
Essentially, yes. And that's why the room goes cold. That's why everyone suddenly looks down at their notes. You might be 100% right about the facts, but you've just signaled that you aren't interested in collaboration.
You're interested in winning.
You're interested in winning. And nobody wants to collaborate with someone who's just trying to win.
Okay, so if the robot voice or the judge voice is the enemy, what is the alternative? Because I also don't want to sound like a pushover. I don't want to go into a meeting and sound like I don't know what I'm talking about.
And this is where the real nuance comes in. The source material suggests using a rising, or my favorite term they use, a wavy intonation.
Wavy intonation. Okay, I'm picturing a surfer now. Like, I'm afraid I disagree, dude. Is that what we're going for?
You're not quite that extreme, but you're actually on the right track. It's where the pitch of your voice goes up and down slightly at the end of the sentence. Instead of that sharp drop, it sort of hovers. It undulates.
So instead of I'm afraid I disagree, falling, it's more like I'm afraid I disagree. Wavy.
Yes, exactly. Can you hear the difference in what you just did?
I do. It's huge. It sounds hesitant. It sounds like I'm not 100% sure, and honestly, that makes me a little nervous.
Why?
Because in business, we're always told to be confident. Fake it till you make it. We're told not to hesitate, not to use upspeak. So why is hesitation good here?
That is the million-dollar question. And the answer lies in social psychology. In the context of a disagreement, what you perceive as confidence often reads to the other person as arrogance. But hesitation, or more accurately, the performance of hesitation, signals humility.
The performance of hesitation. I like that phrase. So I might be totally sure I'm right in my head, but I'm acting a little unsure with my voice.
Precisely. When you use that weighty tone, you are sending a subconscious signal to the other person that says, I see things a little differently, but I'm still processing your view. I am open to discussion. It's an invitation, not a declaration.
So the robot voice shuts the door,
Slamming.
and the wavy voice props it open.
Correct. It creates space for the other person to enter the conversation without feeling defensive. It's about status leveling. You are momentarily lowering your own status, hey, I might be wrong here, to invite them up to your level rather than slapping them down from above.
It's social lubrication.
That's a great way to put it. Think about how you talk to your close friends versus how you talk to a customer service chatbot. With friends, your voice is full of waves and dips and rises. It's dynamic.
Right.
That dynamism signals safety. Flatness signals danger.
Okay, I am completely sold on the wavy voice.
Yeah.
I can do that. I can practice that in a meeting. I can do that over the phone. But this brings us right back to my nightmare scenario with Dave.
The danger of the written word.
The danger of the written word, exactly. Because when I typed that email to Dave, numbers are wrong, I couldn't use a wavy voice. I couldn't put a little squiggly line emoji over the text to show I was being chill.
This is the fundamental flaw of text-based communication, and it's why things like Slack and email are the graveyards of so many workplace relationships.
Graveyards is right.
The source material puts it perfectly. In an email, nobody can hear your intonation, they can't see your smile, the music is stripped away.
It's the void. It's just sterile data on a screen.
And this is where it gets really scary. When that music is stripped away, the human brain has a nasty little habit. Psychologists call it the negativity bias.
Negativity bias.
In the absence of clear emotional cues, a smile, a friendly tone, we tend to project a negative or aggressive tone onto the text.
We automatically assume the worst.
We assume there's a threat. It's a survival mechanism. If you hear a rustle in the bushes in the dark and you don't know what it is, it's much safer for your survival to assume it's a tiger than a bunny rabbit.
So when Dave read my email, numbers are wrong, his brain didn't see a helpful colleague. His brain saw a tiger.
His brain saw a tiger, exactly. Neutral statements, or what we think are neutral statements, often default to sounding harsh and critical in the reader's mind. You thought you were sending an efficient, neutral fact. Dave received a hostile attack on his competence.
That explains so much. I have always thought people were just being overly sensitive, but you're saying their brains are literally programmed to fill in the blanks with aggression because I didn't give them anything else to work with.
Precisely. You gave them a vacuum, and their anxiety filled it.
The source gives a great example of a bad email, which is almost identical to the one I sent Dave. It goes, "This data is wrong. Please fix it."
Oof. Just hearing you read it aloud, it feels so cold.
It does, and I'm the one who wrote something just like it. But let's dissect it, because on the surface, it seems fine. This data is wrong. That's a fact. Please fix it. That's a request. It even includes the magic word, please.
But please is not a magic wand.
Right.
This is such a common misconception. We think please plus a command equals a polite request. But usually, please plus a command just equals a slightly more bossy command.
Please leave the room. Please shut up.
Yeah, not exactly friendly.
Exactly. It's a command modifier, not a softener. In that email, this data is wrong. Please fix it. The structure is just so abrupt. It's accusatory. And without any vocal cues to soften it, it reads as a direct order from a superior who is annoyed and disappointed.
It's the robot voice, but in text form.
It is the written equivalent of the flat, falling intonation. And I think we have all been guilty of sending these accidental grenades, especially when we're in a hurry. We prioritize speed over humanity. Accidental grenades. That is a terrifyingly accurate description of my entire inbox. So how do we diffuse the grenade? We can't just record a voice memo for every single email.
No, we can't. And this is where the source introduces a technique called the sandwich method.
Ah, here we go. The dreaded sandwich.
You don't sound convinced.
Okay, I have to be really honest here. When I hear sandwich method, I cringe. I have sat in so many corporate trainings where they tell you, say something nice, say the mean thing, then say something nice again. It just feels so fake.
Right.
Feels manipulative. Like, hey, nice shoes. You're fired, by the way. I like your hair.
The sycophant sandwich.
Yes.
And you are absolutely right to be skeptical of that version of it.
Yeah.
If you treat it as a mechanical checklist, compliment, insult, compliment, people see right through it. It feels incredibly condescending.
Exactly. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. If my boss starts an email by complimenting my font choice, I immediately think, oh God, what did I do wrong now?
But here is where this deep dive gets interesting. We aren't talking about a compliment sandwich. We are talking about a safety sandwich.
A safety sandwich. Okay, that's a new one.
The goal isn't to distract them with fake praise. The goal is to regulate their nervous system.
Regulate their nervous system. Okay, that is a very different framing. Unpack that for me.
Think about that tiger in the bushes. When you receive an email that starts with criticism, this is wrong, your brain's alarm system, the amygdala, immediately fires up. Fight or flight.
Defenses go way up.
Way up. You stop lifting for solutions and you start preparing your defense. But if you start with the top bun, the opening positive comment, something like, thanks for sending this over so quickly, your brain registers. I am not under attack.
It keeps the fight or flight response offline.
Exactly. You aren't buttering them up to trick them. You are establishing a safe psychological environment so they can actually hear the criticism in the middle without getting defensive.
So the top bun is like anesthesia. You don't perform the surgery, which is the criticism, without first administering the anesthesia.
That is a perfect analogy. You are numbing the ego so you can fix the problem.
Okay, so you have the top bun, the positive opening, then you have the meat. This is the difficult part, the actual criticism, the disagreement.
And finally, the bottom bun, a positive, forward-looking closing statement. This reestablishes the relationship and confirms that everything is okay after the meat has been delivered.
So let's take that terrible grenade of an email from before. This data is wrong, please fix it. And let's run it through the safety sandwich method, just like the hosts in the source material did.
Okay, let's build it. We start with the top bun. Instead of jumping right into the error, we could say something like, thanks for sending this over so quickly, John. Great work on the formatting.
Okay, so I'm validating the effort. I'm acknowledging the part they did right. I'm saying, I see you working. I see the good stuff.
Exactly. You are validating them as a professional human being.
Yeah.
Now, we slide in the meat, but, and this is the most crucial part, we don't just put the old meat in there. We don't say, thanks for the formatting. The data is wrong. Good job.
Right, that would be a very weird sandwich, like a brick wrapped in a piece of bread.
We have to change the internal language of the meat layer too. The source suggests something like, however, I noticed a few discrepancies in the data on page 3. You might want to double check those figures.
Okay, I hear a lot of subtle changes in there. And then the bottom bun.
Once that's sorted, I think we're good to go.
Once that's sorted, I think we're good to go. That's the reassuring finish. It says, you're not in trouble. This project is not doomed. This is a minor fix.
Exactly. It frames the error as a small bump in the road, not a catastrophic dead end.
It's a completely different vibe. I mean, the core information conveyed is identical. There is an error on page 3 that needs fixing, but the emotional impact is night and day.
It is.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to what you noticed about the meat layer, because this is where the real microsurgery on your language happens. It wasn't just the structure that changed. The words themselves were different.
Yeah, I caught that too. They swapped wrong for discrepancies. Now, I'm a words guy. I love a good synonym. But why is discrepancy so much better than error? Aren't they basically the same thing?
Semantically, yes.
Yeah.
Emotionally, not at all. This is a master stroke in professional communication.
Okay.
Words like error, mistake, wrong. These are very heavy loaded words. They feel personal. They imply incompetence. They say, you failed.
It points the finger directly at the person. You made an error.
Exactly. Discrepancy, on the other hand, is a cool, neutral technical term. It implies a mismatch between two sets of data. It points the finger at the numbers, not at the person.
So it's the difference between you made an error and I see a discrepancy.
Yes. It creates emotional distance from the mistake. It turns it into a puzzle to be solved together rather than a crime to be punished. It allows the other person to look at the data objectively without feeling like their intelligence or their character is being questioned.
That is so subtle, but so incredibly powerful. It's like saying, hey, these numbers are acting weird, not, hey, you are weird.
That's a perfect way to phrase it. And the other change I noticed in that meat layer was the shift from a direct command to a gentle suggestion.
Yes. The original bad email said, please fix it, which we already established is just a command.
The improved version says, you might want to double check those figures.
You might want to. I love this phrase. It's so sneaky. It's polite, but it's not optional.
It is. It's grammatically optional, but socially, it's absolutely mandatory.
Right. If my boss emails me and says, you might want to fix this, I know for a fact I have to fix it, but it feels completely different.
It feels different because it preserves the other person's sense of autonomy.
Economy.
Autonomy is a huge driver of human motivation. Nobody likes to be bossed around. Even if we have to do something, we want to feel like we chose to do it.
So by saying, you might want to, you are technically leaving the choice up to me, even though we both know there's only one right choice.
You are creating an illusion of choice. Yes. You are treating the recipient as an equal, a fellow professional who can make their own decisions. Here's some new information I've noticed. You might want to act on it. It lowers the social friction to almost zero.
It's like that movie Inception. You're planting the idea in their head that they are the one who wants to fix it.
In a way, yes. Please fix it creates resistance. You might want to check. Invites cooperation.
I'm realizing how much of this is just about protecting the other person's ego. It's not about the data at all. It's about the person handling the data.
It is 100% about that. If you bruise the ego, you lose the person. If you protect the ego, you get the work done and you strengthen the relationship.
And that leads perfectly into the next strategy from the source material, which I think is the ultimate ego protection move. They call it the clarification strategy.
Oh, this is my favorite. I call this the Columbo method.
The Columbo method from the old TV detective.
Exactly. You know, he would always walk around in that shabby trench coat, looking all confused, scratching his head, saying, just one more thing. He played dumb, but he was always the smartest guy in the room.
Ah, right. So the clarification strategy is about playing dumb on purpose.
Essentially, yes. It is the strategy of checking if you are right without ever telling the other person that they are wrong. The whole mechanism is about blaming yourself for the confusion.
So instead of saying, Dave, your report makes absolutely no sense, which is obviously aggressive,
you would say something like, hey, maybe I'm missing something, but am I right in thinking that these figures refer to last year's sales?
Or the other classic one they mention, correct me if I'm wrong, but...
And that phrase, correct me if I'm wrong, is identified in the source as the ultimate polite phrase.
The ultimate. Why is it the ultimate? It sounds a little bit weak, doesn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like I'm not confident.
It sounds humble, but it's incredibly powerful. Because think about the alternative. If you say, this report makes no sense, you are accusing the writer of being incoherent. You are directly attacking their competence.
And what are they going to do? They're going to snap right back. It makes perfect sense if you actually read it properly.
Immediately. You started a fight. You're now arguing about who is smarter. But if you say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm having a little trouble following the logic here, or am I right in thinking? You are framing the entire situation as a potential misunderstanding on your part.
You're taking the blame.
You're taking the blame. You're saying, hey, I might be the one who was confused here. Can you please help me out?
It completely de-escalates the whole thing.
Yeah.
You're taking the bullet for the team.
You are. You are voluntarily taking the low status position of the confused person. And what does that do psychologically? It forces the other person to step up into the high-status position of the explainer. And 99 times out of 100, as they start to explain it to you, they will realize they are the one who made the mistake.
Oh, wait a minute, actually. I see I pasted the wrong chart in there.
Exactly. But because you never attack them, they can admit their mistake without losing face. They can just say, oh, you know what? That's my bad. Sorry about that. Let me fix it for you.
Instead of digging in their heels and defending something that's wrong just to save their pride.
Precisely. You get the exact same result. The error gets fixed, but the relationship stays completely intact. In fact, it might even be stronger because you showed them grace when they were vulnerable.
This connects to a broader philosophy the source mentions. It's not just a tactic, it's a whole mindset. They call it giving someone the benefit of the doubt.
This is the absolute foundation of all polite disagreement. If you don't actually believe this in your heart, all the wavy voices and safety sandwiches in the world won't save you. People can smell fake politeness from a mile away.
Okay, so define benefit of the doubt in this specific context.
It means assuming that the other person made an honest mistake, rather than a malicious or lazy one. It means starting from the assumption that they are competent and well-intentioned, even if the result in front of you is wrong.
So, with my Dave situation, I immediately assumed he was sloppy. I assumed he didn't check his work properly.
You attributed the error to character flaws, laziness, incompetence.
Right. But maybe he was working off an old data file someone else sent him. Maybe his computer crashed and he lost the latest version. Maybe he hasn't slept in 2 days because he has a new baby at home.
Exactly. There's an old saying, Hanlon's razor. Never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity, or in this professional context, by honest error or external circumstances. If you approach Dave with the mindset of, he's a good, competent guy who probably made an honest mistake, your tone will naturally soften.
So how does the language actually change if I have this mindset?
Well, let's look at a phrase the source uses. Did we decide on the other option?
That's a clarification question. It sounds innocent enough.
It is. And it signals, hey, maybe I remember this wrong, or maybe you forgot, but where are we? Let's check together. Now, contrast that with the alternative. You didn't follow the option we decided on.
Oof. You didn't follow. That's an accusation. That's a finger poke right in the chest.
That signals blame. It signals that you think they deliberately ignored the decision. The first option, did we decide, gives the benefit of the doubt. It leaves room for honest error. It assumes you are on the same team, just trying to recall the same play from the playbook.
It seems like all of these strategies, the wavy voice, the sandwich, the micro-vocabulary, the clarification, they all point to the exact same goal. Being right without making the other person feel wrong.
That is the essence of it. It's about prioritizing the long-term relationship over the short-term ego boost of being correct.
It's the difference between winning the argument and winning the ally.
That's beautifully put. You can win the argument and lose the employee. You can win the argument and lose the client.
Or lose Dave. Poor Dave and his stapler.
Poor Dave.
So, okay, let's try and synthesize all of this. We've covered a ton of ground. The source material frames this whole topic as a trilogy of polite disagreement. We've been focusing heavily on the delivery aspect today, but let's look at the whole picture for a second. What are the 3 pillars?
The first pillar is vocabulary. This is all about using softeners and hedging language. Words like quite, perhaps, maybe, a little bit, a slight.
Like making things less absolute. So it's not, it is bad, but it is a bit problematic. Not you are wrong, but I'm not quite sure I follow.
Exactly. You're just blurring the hard edges of reality to make it more palatable. The second pillar is grammar.
Okay.
This involves using clever structures like the distancing pass, saying, I was hoping instead of I hope, or using negative questions like, wouldn't it be better if we...
Right. I was hoping to get this by Friday. It puts the request in the past, so it feels less demanding in the present moment.
It creates psychological distance. And then the third pillar, which has been our main focus today, delivery.
Which is the sandwich method for the structure of your message and the wavy intonation for the sound of your voice.
And when you combine all 3 of those pillars, you create a very sophisticated, very effective communication style.
It also sounds like a lot to remember. The source even acknowledges that this can feel like a lot of work at first. And honestly, it sounds exhausting. Do I really have to perform this kind of linguistic gymnastics every single time I want to correct a simple typo in an email?
That is a completely fair pushback. And the answer is No, of course not. If you are with your best friend or your spouse or a trusted colleague of 10 years, you can probably just say, hey, you messed this up.
Right.
But in a professional setting or with someone you don't know well.
Yeah.
Or when the stakes are high, the effort is the point.
The effort is the point. What do you mean by that?
The very fact that you are taking the time and the mental energy to wrap your criticism in these polite layers, it signals respect. It shows the other person that you value the relationship enough to be careful with their feelings.
So the work itself is the message. The message is, I value you enough to not just be blunt and efficient.
Exactly. And the source makes a very important point here. The payoff is absolutely worth it. These patterns become automatic over time. It's like learning to drive a car.
Okay.
At first, you are consciously thinking about every gear shift, every mirror check where your hands are. It feels clunky and overwhelming. But eventually you just drive. It becomes second nature.
And the result is that life in universities and workplaces, really anywhere you have to interact with other human beings, just gets smoother.
It creates a lubricant for social friction. You still get what you want. The errors get fixed. The disagreements get voiced. But you don't leave a trail of angry, resentful colleagues in your wake.
I think that's the key takeaway for me. It's actually about a higher form of efficiency. It's efficiency through kindness. I used to think kindness was inefficient. I thought directness was efficient. But look where that got me with Dave. 3 days of delay and a damaged relationship.
Kindness is strategic. Directness causes damage control. And damage control takes a lot of time. Politeness prevents the damage from ever happening in the first place.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, let's just recap the journey we've been on. We started with the robot voice, that flat, falling intonation that sounds like a judge's gavel hitting the wood.
And we learned to replace it with the wavy intonation, the sound of hesitation that invites the other person in, the surfer voice, if you will.
We looked at the danger of the written word, that communication void, and how email strips away our humanity and makes us all sound like angry robots by default.
And we learned how to rebuild that humanity using the safety sandwich. Positive opening, softened criticism, and a positive forward-looking close.
We did some microsurgery on our words, swapping the personal accusation of an error for the neutral observation of a discrepancy.
And swapping the command of please fix this for the gift of autonomy in it, you might want to.
And finally, we embraced our inner Columbo, the clarification strategy, learning to ask, am I right in thinking, instead of telling someone they're crazy?
It's really a complete toolkit for being a nice, effective person, even when you have to say no or point out a flaw.
Or when you just have to say someone is plain wrong.
Exactly.
Now, before we go, the source ends with this great little meta moment where the hosts actually use the techniques on each other.
Yes, I love that. John says, I hate to say it, but we are out of time.
I hate to say it. That's a classic softener. He didn't just say, okay, we're out of time. He cushioned it.
And Emma replies with, I suppose you're right.
I suppose. That's hedging. They are practicing what they preach. They are modeling the behavior for the listener, even as they sign off.
It just shows that with practice, it becomes a completely natural part of how you speak.
So here's our final thought for you to chew on, and I am genuinely going to do this myself as soon as we finish recording. Think about the last text or email you sent that got a really cold response, or maybe one where the person just spanked replying altogether, like my email to Dave.
Go back and read it, but don't just read the words on the screen. Try to read it with that robot voice in your head. Imagine you are the recipient getting that message out of the blue.
Did you sandwich the bad news? Did you use any of that wavy, hesitant phrasing? Or did you just drop a verbal brick on their desk?
And if you had applied these techniques, the sandwich, the softer words, the clarification, how might the outcome have changed?
And finally, ask yourself the big question. Is being right worth it if the delivery makes you wrong in the eyes of the other person?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? Influence over correctness.
I'm going to go email Dave now. I think I owe him a very carefully constructed sandwich.
Make it a good one.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Go forth and sandwich your disagreements.
See you next time.